This is one of the most unnerving experiences I've had in my whole life. I have to first share that with you because, as I was telling Ira, my daughter, normally, you have a script. So, you are like a king on stage. You walk in there and you have a written script, you know your lines and you're completely confident. And you have a huge number of people who you're sharing this script with and this role with. And now suddenly you are talking in a screen and you have no idea if there's even one single person there. I know Anant is there and I can see Dolly is there. Somebody else is there, yes. I can see somebody else there. So Dilip, hi. But even when we do things on screen, we always have somebody to talk to. We don't talk to an empty screen. Even if we're performing a sort of a solo piece on screen, we have AD talking to us or somebody talking to us. So this is a first for me, and I have to tell you that I'm extremely nervous. So it's a bit strange actually that I'm talking to you, I'm getting onto social media. Actually, I have to share something. I'm going to jump into social media now because I've understood that I can no more be hello to everybody whose messages are coming in. So nice of you to join us and be here to listen to my thoughts and share them with me. So it's a rather strange time actually to be talking to people because of the times we're in a way. Because we're talking about theatre, we're talking about something which in its essence, in its very essence, is a shared experience between human beings in a live space. And we're talking about it at a time when we don't know in a way what the future of it is, though I feel very, very strongly in my bones, if something that has survived for thousands of years, which is absolutely organic to us as human beings, which we can't live without, that is the sharing of stories, the sharing of experiences, starting from primitive man sitting around a fireplace and telling his stories and sharing things that are happening around him. How can we ever stop doing theatre? It's not possible. We may sit 4 seats apart. We may sit with masks, we may perform with masks of some kind, I don't know, but we cannot. The human spirit will rally, we will find a way to perform again. So firstly, all of you, and I'm assuming a lot of you are from the theatre, I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart that I have the faith. I have the faith that very, very soon we will find a way to do theatre again. And not just in the digital way. I know all of us are being very innovative. We're trying to think of some way to sort of tide over this period by using the digital platform, by saying that, which is wonderful. It's a new medium. We should explore it. We should put on our thinking and imaginative hats and see how can we use this medium? What can we do with it? Maybe we can come up with some extraordinary things we never thought of before, which is wonderful. But for me, the essence of real theatre is and always will be the shared experience, because that's what makes it special. The fact that you and I'm talking to you now. So that is why it is not so odd for me to be talking about the 2 things that I wanted to discuss with you and chat with you about, which was to the challenge of making theatre be respected. This is a very, very important thing because I feel that the future of theatre, the future of what we're going to do on stage, is a lot dependent on how we ourselves as a fraternity, how do we view theatre? Because a lot of things that people feel about us are also because of the way we feel about it. I remember once, I had a different philosophy. I started off my theatre company thinking I want to do original work. I want to do work that is written over here and I want to take it across the world. I'll come to that when I talk to you about your own distinct voice in theatre. And I also was not being a purist. I said, we have performed from the largest theatres in the world, in Wellington, in Sydney, in Auckland, a theatre where John Cleese had just performed just before we came, where they'd never heard of an Indian play in their whole life. They were wondering where we'd come from, what were we doing. And we took, let's say, a play like Sammy or Dance Like a Man, which was so very Indian. So we were taking it to places where it was completely new and unheard of. And when we were doing this, people were exposed to a kind of theatre they hadn't seen. But to come back to what I was talking about, the importance of theatre. So I was saying, from theatres like that to theatres which are very small, black box theatre in Kuala Lumpur, to sort of an intimate theatre in the Tribeca in Manhattan, to performing for factory workers in a factory, in a maidan for them, while they were sitting on the ground and eating samosas, and we were performing Sami in Hindi for them, which is about Gandhian philosophy and Gandhian thought. I have been very democratic in wanting to work anywhere and everywhere. And so I remember I was talking about, this thing about respecting ourselves and all that, and having worth for what we do. A very, very well-known actress, she asked me, she also had a company, and she asked me, she was very senior, and she said, somebody is asking us to come and perform in a banquet hall in a hotel. And, I feel very odd. I don't know whether we should really do this sort of thing, and I don't even know how much we should charge. I mean, I feel very odd. I don't know what I should be charging. And I said to her, what do you think you are worth yourself? Do you not feel what you do has worth? That you can ask for this kind of money? I gave her some figure, and she said, oh, that seems a lot of money. I said, why do you feel that? You work so hard, you have produced a piece, and now you're feeling embarrassed to ask for money for it. And secondly, performing in a thing. So I wasn't a purist. When I got these sort of offers right in the beginning, I said, look, people have performed in village squares, they have performed. Theatre is not an elitist medium. It has been performed on the streets, it has been performed everywhere. So if people are not drinking, they're not eating, they're not doing anything offensive, it's not disrespectful, they are quiet, they're just sitting down in a banquet hall and they're watching you perform, why not? It's a much bigger audience. So I don't want to sound like I'm giving any gyan here, but I'm just sharing that I feel, I have to give you my background, why I feel so strongly about respecting theatre. Two things I'm going to talk about. One is I come from a very professionally, a family which is full of professionals, and when I decided to do theatre, my dad, even my mom, they really weren't very excited. I had to do 2 masters to prove that I was remotely educated, and then I moved to theatre. So I always felt all my life that maybe I was a bit of a dilettante, What was I doing? I wasn't a lawyer, I wasn't a doctor, I wasn't doing something really meaningful and relevant in my life. I was just doing theatre. And I had an epiphany at 40, and I said to myself, what am I talking about? People work, they do what they do to exist, to survive, to make a living. They also do some very noble things like serve humanity. But what we do in the arts is at least as important and as wonderful, and because it is the thing that illuminates our lives, that's really that interprets life, that gives meaning to life. For me, it was an epiphany that theatre has a lot of meaning for me, and so I give it a lot of respect. I know it's difficult, especially in a place like Bombay, where we are surrounded by Bollywood, we're surrounded by independent cinema, we're surrounded by the web series, we're surrounded by television, which relegates theatre to sort of a third cousin, poor third country bumpkin sort of cousin. But we, and in the fraternity, we have to have a lot of pride in it. And I'll tell you a very interesting incident. I was shooting for a film called The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, one of the sort of high points of my film life at least. And there were 2 wonderful dames called Judi Dench and Maggie Smith who were in this film with me. Now, as you must know, Judy and Maggie have both come from the theatre. They have been schooled in the theatre. They've spent like 50 years in the theatre, at least, before they even started moving to films and doing things like that. And when I was shooting with them, one day, the last day of the shoot, I had a a show that night. It just so happened they had to suddenly shoot that day and had to finish the shoot. Harsh Shah. Theatre is to entertain or educate and change people's opinion on various topics. Okay, I will answer that as well. It is to do both. It is to do both. It is to entertain. Of course, you have to entertain people. You see, the thing is, I'll come back to your question, Harsh. I'll just finish what I was talking about. So, when I told them, the difference is when you're abroad and you talk to people about the fact that you do theatre, even if you're shooting a film or whatever, they look at you with so much respect because they know what you need to be in the theatre, the skill set you need, the kind of dedication, the kind of focus, the kind of passion you need to be in the theatre is a little different from other mediums. The hard work that you need, so especially the hard work. So they look at you with a lot of respect, and I was so touched when I was doing this climax scene, which got shifted onto the day that I had to come back and do a show at Tata. I still remember at 7:30 I had to fly back from Jaipur, and both Judy and Maggie were on edge throughout the shoot. It started very early in the morning, and they kept saying, Lillete has a play. She has to be in Bombay, in time. We have to wrap this up by 12 o'clock. They were so worried because they said, it's a live performance. You have to be there on time. And I realized that the reason, it's sort of a catch-22. In England, people are crazy about the theatre. They love the theatre. I have gone to the nth sort of show of Macbeth in the afternoon at 3 o'clock and it's full. People love the theatre. So it's one is the love for the theatre, the respect for the theatre. And I think as a fraternity, we have to inculcate this in ourselves, and we have to make people realize, though it's not a mass medium, it is not an elitist medium either. It is very much a medium for the masses. And secondly, I think the other thing that is to do with respect is that people feel that we don't make much money in theatre. I think that is the reason why they don't give it that kind of sort of a status. But I feel that is why when we say we want to charge X amount for a play, we should not feel embarrassed about that, because are we not worthy of that? We are worthy of that. We have put in work, it has cost us time, energy, love, money, and we should be fearless in saying that, we feel this is worth it. Why shouldn't we charge a certain amount of money? And that, I think, also is one aspect of respect, which we don't, people have this concept still somewhere, I think, still have a concept that, theatre walas are with jholas and they're wandering around, living on just their love and their passion for theatre, as if you're still staying in attics and garrets and all that. But which is not true, and we have to make them believe that. So I think together with the creative and the passion and the soul food that theatre is for all of us, we also have to have a sense of pride and a sense of confidence and a sense of making people respect us for the work we do. And I feel very strongly about this. I've been in this business now as an independent producer director for almost going to be 30 years in February. We're finishing 30 years of our company, and for at least 10 to 15 years, I know I sound like a fossil saying that, but for at least 40, 45 years before that. And it's taken a long while for me to understand that there is no shame in saying that we want to make money out of theatre so that we can survive. We don't get any grants from any governments, from state or sort of central governments. It's shocking. In other countries, many countries, you are supported by the state. We are not. We have to support ourselves. We fly on our own passion, our own love for the craft. So, of course, we have to charge something for it, and we have to have a sense of respect for ourselves. We have to have a sense of respect for the people who are in the business with us, and I think this is very, very important. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about, I will answer questions once I have sort of finish talking about the things I set out to talk about. And then I'm happy to chat with you all and talk about whatever you want to talk about. And the second thing, which I feel is a very important thing, which Mahesh, my friend, is going to talk to you about soon in one of his sessions coming up this next month, is that the biggest lacuna in theatre today, of course, is writing. And I am a great believer that we have to all, and what's wonderful about the arts is everybody loves different kinds of subjects, different kinds of themes, different styles of telling a story. We're all different, and that's what makes the arts so rich. But when I was talking about a distinct voice, I am very keen to promote one thing that I feel very strongly about, which is one of the reasons for setting up my company, which was that we all have to help to create a body of literature, Indian original theatrical literature, because that's a big lacuna that is there. Whether it's, I know in Marathi and in Gujarati, there is a lot of stuff, a lot more than there is, say, in Hindi and English. Now things are changing. I know Dance Like a Man was a huge, huge landmark in that, huge milestone in that journey. But that is the way to go. And then to discover new voices, I feel we share our stories, of course, with people who are Indians here, but we also would love to share our stories, and especially today. Today, when we're talking about the digital world and entering a world which is largely going to be digital and online, meaning somebody could be watching me right now, sitting in Timbuktu, in Toronto, in wherever, in any country across the world, in the Arctic. So the reach is become enormous, and maybe one of the ways theatre will happen willy-nilly, whether I like to accept it or not, a sort of a tangential kind of theatre, will be online. If that is the case, I would like the stuff that's written here, the work that comes organically out of our roots, to be the work that is beamed across the world. When I did a play of Mahesh Elkunchwar's, a play called Atmakatha, autobiography, I still remember there was a very, very well-known theatre company from San Francisco that had come down to, I think it was Delhi when I was performing it there, and they came to see the play. It's a very sophisticated play. It has like 4 versions of the truth. Wife's version, her sister's version, husband's version, the fictional version. So it's a very rich Rashomon plus kind of script. And it's brilliant. And so when they came to see it, they came backstage and, they told me, who's written this play? I said, a very famous gentleman. He's very, very well known, very talented, called Mahesh Elkunchwar. He said, oh, he's an Indian. I said, yes. So they said, oh well, we thought maybe you've taken a play from abroad and you've adapted it or something. And I was wondering who the playwright of this play was. And I said, I don't know if that is a compliment or is that an insult, because why wouldn't people from India be able to write a play as good and as sophisticated as this? So they said, no, that's not what we were trying to say. But what I was trying to say was that there is, every time we've taken our plays abroad, whether it's a Girish Karnad, whether it's a Pratap Sharma, whether it's a Mahesh Dattani, Mahesh Elkunchwar, whatever, people are amazed at the writing, even amazed with the acting. I should be frank and say, maybe a little bit with the direction also, but they are really impressed with the scripts that have been written by these very, very talented playwrights. And I feel, when I'm talking about distinct voice, that is what I was looking for. Everybody looks for it in different ways. Everybody has a signature style in theatre, as they do in any artistic form. And mine was to develop original work and original writing. But Manav Kaul has his style, Makrand has his style. Everybody has their own styles, so nobody has to sort of copy anybody. In fact, I'm reading a lovely book called The Art of Rivalry, and it's all about how it's about actually painters, Matisse and Degas and all that, and how each was so, the rivalry led to the other person coming out with the best potential that he had, because he was so inspired by seeing someone whose work he knew at some level was far better than his, or slightly better than his, or very original and very different, that either made him fearless or it made him want to better himself. So we all in a fraternity, an artistic fraternity, should be inspiring each other, to do better. And so this distinct voice that I was talking about is you've got to be a little fearless. You have to pick up things that are not necessarily sort of well known and done to death before, but something new where you're exploring new subjects, new styles, new writers, fresh talent. And I really feel like if there's something we all need to think about doing, is building up a body of really good theatrical work in terms of writing, and then of course in terms of production. And this is the distinct voice that I wanted to talk about, that we need to explore how we can do this, each one of us in the theatrical world, how we can do this, how we can inspire young writers to write for us, because every time I have taken work that is from here abroad, and I firstly, it's such an obvious thing. Why would the world want to go on seeing endless versions of something that they have already seen many, many times before, which has already been performed outside? They want to see new stuff. They want to see universal stories, but rooted in a particular ethos where it's colored by our culture, our roots, which is organic to this particular culture, this particular country. And we have so many stories, so many multiple cultures in this country, that it's rooted in all that and yet rises above it, like any good piece of writing or a painting or a piece of music, rises above its sort of ethnic roots to tell a very universal story. And this is what we should be looking for when we do our plays here, because if we are going digital, it'll be wonderful. It'll be wonderful to take all the stuff from here. It's so exciting. And think that someone in China, no, not China, somebody in wherever, Australia, in Harare, where we've performed, anywhere in the world, is looking at an Indian story. When we took a play, Dance Like a Man, to the Tribeca in New York, it's right next to the Tribeca Grill, which Robert De Niro owns. And I used to keep dreaming and saying, oh God, maybe one day he'll just hop across and he'll come and see one of the shows, where we got reviewed by the New York Times, but Robert De Niro didn't come. And while we were there, it was one of the most amazing experiences for me, because the first day when we look at the audience, we see Hispanics, we see blacks, we see Chinese, we see Americans, we see Jews, we see WASPs, we see Indians, we see Pakistanis. We have such a heterogeneous sort of audience, and we are doing a play. First, a play called On a Muggy Night in Mumbai. No, first was Dance Like a Man. Now, when I was taking it, everyone said, you cannot take a play where you're saying words like Panwala and Adavus and, using so much terminology, which is not just in sort of Indian, but it is specific to the classical world of Bharatanatyam dance. How can you use these words? No one is going to understand anything. But it was amazing how they laughed at the same places that people laughed all over India, at the same jokes. They were quiet in the same places. It was a revelation that, because I said to them, I am not going to change anything. When I went to see a play called Fences, which is set in Harlem in New York many moons ago, I could barely understand half the play. It's very specific to the way they talk, you know, the blacks talk in Harlem. And then I saw another play which a sort of Sam Shepard had written, which was set in the Midwest. Again, very strong accent, or even English accents which don't even sound like English, you know, either they're strongly North England or something. And I said, if we see their plays, we enter their world. That is what is special about it. We enter that world, we try to understand that world, we try to grapple with things that are happening in that world, and we're looking for connects, that how do we connect to this story, because ultimately it's a human relationship story. And we are able to make that jump. If they are coming to see our Indian plays, they have to make that jump too. They have to get inside and they have to understand. And that's why it was so amazing that I remember a guy in Portland wrote that, oh, it's as familiar to us as a kitchen sink, this story. That means all the superficial stuff of where it's set and whether we're wearing saris or whether we're wearing flowers in our hair or a salwar kameez or a kurta pajama or whatever we are wearing is irrelevant. You strip it of all that and you understand everything that's happening in the play. So I feel very strongly about us finding this unique voice which is very, very Indian, and which now in the digital world we're going to sort of put out there. Now let me try to see some of the things that you guys have been sending me. Kalyan, hello ma'am, I've been passionate about it but never been able to get a breakthrough. I can get right. Okay, so keep working on it, Kalyana. That's all I can say. I have missed all the other messages before, so if some of you can repeat your messages, I can have a look at them, and maybe I can try and answer them in some way. Who suggested I do movies? Well, I've always said I am an accidental film actress. I think, who asked me that question? Saeed Faizan. Saeed, I have always called myself an accidental film actress. Nobody suggested it. I happened to come here about 20 years ago, and I got a call from Mr. Benegal asking me to do Zubaida, and a call from Kailash Surendranath asking me to do a film called Love You Hamesha. So these were the two, and then almost at the same time a film called Bhavandar with Jagmohan Mundra, who was a lovely man who's not with us anymore. And that's how I got into movies, just like that. I mean, it was not a plan, it was not in my life plan at all, but it just happened. Okay, so here I'm going to be winding up, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this. It was, for me, very bizarre talking to a screen. Normally, even when it's into a screen, it's at least you have someone asking you some questions and you are answering them. Here, it was like a Hamlet monologue where I was just talking to no co-actors and hoping that someone out in the universe somewhere was listening to me. So from these messages, I know that at least some of you were, and I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed sharing my thoughts on theatre and on these two subjects. Stay safe, stay well, and see you soon.